For a long time, I thought dog loyalty was something very simple. I believed loyal dogs were simply dogs that stayed close, followed commands, protected owners, and never left their side no matter what happened. And honestly, most people grow up believing the same thing. Loyalty in dogs is usually described as unconditional devotion, almost like dogs automatically love humans no matter how they are treated. But over time, I started noticing things that completely challenged that idea. Some dogs looked incredibly obedient and attached on the surface while quietly seeming emotionally shut down underneath. Meanwhile, other dogs with imperfect obedience showed deep emotional trust, confidence, and connection in ways that felt far more meaningful than simple compliance. That contradiction stayed in my mind for a long time. Then I started paying closer attention to something I had underestimated before. I stopped focusing only on obedience and attachment behavior and started paying attention to emotional trust, nervous system safety, and relationship quality instead. And honestly, that changed the way I understand dog loyalty completely. I realized many dogs are not loyal simply because they are dogs. Many become deeply loyal because of how emotionally safe and understood they feel around certain humans. Most people describe loyalty as a dog following someone everywhere or obeying no matter what. While those things can absolutely be signs of loyalty, real loyalty often goes much deeper emotionally. Dogs constantly observe emotional energy, predictability, trust, routines, tension, body language, emotional consistency, and how humans respond during stressful moments. Loyalty grows inside those repeated emotional experiences over time. One thing I completely misunderstood early on was assuming loyalty automatically exists forever once a dog bonds with someone. In reality, trust and emotional safety heavily influence how openly loyal dogs feel able to remain. Some dogs stay physically close to humans while quietly becoming emotionally disconnected underneath. Owners sometimes mistake obedience or dependency for emotional trust when the dog may actually feel anxious or uncertain internally. That realization changed everything for me. I stopped seeing loyalty as blind obedience and started seeing it more as emotional trust built through repeated safety and connection. One thing that surprised me most was how strongly dogs respond to emotional consistency. Dogs generally become most deeply bonded to humans whose behavior feels emotionally stable and predictable. Calm, predictable humans often create emotional safety around dogs without even realizing it. Sensitive dogs especially relax deeply around people whose energy feels emotionally steady. Meanwhile, emotionally inconsistent behavior can slowly damage trust. Frustration, unpredictable reactions, constant tension, emotional conflict, or nervous energy can make some dogs more emotionally cautious over time. This is one reason loyalty sometimes changes subtly inside relationships. Dogs may still obey commands outwardly while quietly becoming more emotionally guarded underneath. One major misconception people have is believing loyal dogs tolerate absolutely everything emotionally forever. Dogs are incredibly forgiving animals, but emotional trust still matters enormously to them. Dogs generally thrive when relationships feel emotionally safe and understandable. Repeated emotional pressure, fear, unpredictability, or instability slowly affects many dogs much more deeply than owners realize. Another thing I misunderstood was the role emotional regulation plays in bonding. Dogs often become most loyal to humans who help them feel calmest internally during stressful situations. This becomes especially obvious with anxious or reactive dogs. Many emotionally overwhelmed dogs become intensely bonded to people who consistently create emotional stability and safety. One thing many owners notice is that dogs frequently seek out calm people specifically during stressful moments. Dogs often move toward whoever feels emotionally safest when they feel uncertain or overwhelmed. That realization completely changed how I viewed loyalty behavior. I stopped seeing loyalty as simple dependence and started understanding it more as emotional trust and nervous system safety. Another huge factor is predictability. Dogs generally trust humans more when routines, communication, and emotional reactions feel consistent over time. This is why emotionally calm leadership matters so much. Calmness creates emotional clarity while emotional volatility creates uncertainty for many dogs. One thing I eventually realized is that dogs constantly study how humans respond during pressure. Dogs notice frustration during walks, tension inside homes, emotional reactions to mistakes, and nervous energy immediately. Dogs are incredibly emotionally observant animals. They often understand emotional atmosphere far more clearly than humans realize. One thing many owners accidentally do is focus heavily on obedience while overlooking emotional connection underneath. Dogs may perform commands beautifully while quietly feeling emotionally disconnected from the relationship itself. Connection often develops through very small repeated moments. Calm presence, patient communication, predictable routines, emotional steadiness, and feeling emotionally safe around someone matter enormously to many dogs. One major moment that changed my perspective happened after watching a rescue dog completely shut down emotionally around one owner while becoming openly affectionate and relaxed around another family member. The second person barely gave commands at all. What shocked me most was how differently the dog's entire body language changed emotionally. Around one person, the dog looked tense and hyper-alert. Around the other, the dog looked safe enough to fully relax. That moment completely changed how I understand loyalty now. I realized many dogs are not simply more loyal naturally, many are emotionally responding to how safe, understood, and regulated they feel around certain humans. Another thing I learned is that loyalty does not always look dramatic. Sometimes loyalty appears through quiet trust instead of obvious attachment behavior. A dog resting peacefully beside someone, calmly checking in visually during stressful situations, or fully relaxing its nervous system around a human often says far more emotionally than dramatic excitement alone. One thing many people misunderstand is that emotionally secure dogs still enjoy independence, exploration, and stimulation. Loyalty does not mean emotional dependency constantly. True emotional security often creates calmer attachment instead of frantic attachment. Dogs that feel emotionally safe generally trust relationships more deeply overall. Another thing dogs seem deeply drawn toward is emotional understanding. Dogs often bond strongest with humans who notice emotional shifts without immediately escalating pressure or frustration. This is why patient owners frequently build such powerful bonds with difficult dogs. Calm understanding creates emotional trust many sensitive dogs crave deeply. One thing many owners accidentally overlook is how much emotional atmosphere shapes relationships daily. Constant tension, conflict, chaos, frustration, or overstimulation slowly affect emotional trust over time. Some dogs respond by becoming anxious or reactive. Others become emotionally quieter and more guarded internally. Highly sensitive dogs often react especially strongly to emotional instability. These dogs may appear clingy, hyper-alert, emotionally dependent, or distant depending on how emotionally safe life feels around them. Another huge lesson for me was understanding why some dogs become intensely bonded to one person specifically. Many emotionally sensitive dogs stay closest to the humans who regulate their nervous systems most effectively. This becomes especially obvious during fear or uncertainty. Proximity itself often feels emotionally stabilizing around trusted people. One thing dogs constantly teach humans is that emotional energy matters enormously. Dogs often understand calmness, tension, predictability, and emotional safety far more clearly than humans expect. That does not mean dogs think exactly like humans emotionally. But they are extremely sensitive to emotional consistency and relationship atmosphere. Another thing I eventually realized is that dogs often trust calmness more than control. Humans who feel emotionally grounded generally create more emotional security than humans constantly trying to dominate situations emotionally. This is why calm leadership works so powerfully with dogs. Calmness creates nervous system safety while emotional instability often creates uncertainty. One major mindset shift for me was understanding that loyalty is not simply something dogs automatically owe humans. Deep loyalty often grows from repeated emotional safety, trust, understanding, and consistency over time. That perspective changes everything. Suddenly loyalty becomes much deeper than obedience or attachment alone. Of course, practical things still matter too. Feeding, walking, routines, playtime, training, and time together absolutely strengthen relationships strongly. But emotional atmosphere often shapes loyalty far more deeply than many people realize. Dogs generally become most loyal to humans who make life feel emotionally safe and understandable. The more I understood this, the more I realized I had been completely wrong about dog loyalty. Loyalty is not always blind obedience or constant attachment. Very often, it is emotional trust strong enough for a dog to fully relax its nervous system around someone completely. And honestly, realizing that completely changed the way I understand dogs altogether.